What is up, YouTube? Welcome to the first episode of 2019 for the Triple Double Podcast. My name is S1-Ep7, and I am here with my partner in person, Romero Huddy Jr. What's going on?
How you doing,
my man? How's it going on? Happy New Year to you, my bro.
Same to you. Happy holidays. We're back at it. Another show. This time in person.
Yes,
and
in person.
Should be this way for a while now. At least a couple months. So.
Absolutely. You know what? I'm ready to hop in it. Are you?
Ready.
Let's get this going, man. First topic of the new year, the Boston Celtics room. These guys had a higher ceiling than more teams this year. We've seen them last year, how they took LeBron James all 7 games in the East Conference Finals. They're going through some struggles right now. Their record, they have a winning record, but it's not, they should be winning more games. Right. Is what people are saying. You have Jaylen Brown and Marcus Morris getting in arguments in the huddle with, people getting shoved and this and that. So what's your take on what's going on in Boston?
It's just a little dysfunctional over there. I think for me, there's a lot of games left to be played. First off, I'm not really too concerned with the record. I think they'll still probably be in the mix in the end. They'll still probably make a deep playoff run, obviously. But right now, they're just in a slump. They're just in a slump. I think in terms of Kyrie coming out with all these media statements and pointing fingers, I'm not a fan of that. I feel like he's pointing blame on everybody else instead of he's saying they don't have a leader.
Right. In
my mind, you are the leader.
Right.
You came there to be the leader.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You went to.
We had a conversation off air. I was never a big fan of him leaving LeBron James, but the reason he did so was for his own team. Mm-hmm. And that kind of goes into what you're saying is this: if you're complaining about your team not having leadership, I'm sorry, weren't you looking to take over as the leader of arguably the most historic franchise in the NBA?
Exactly.
And all of a sudden things aren't going your way, and all of a sudden you're pointing the finger at Jason Tatum and Brown and Morris. How about Kyrie?
And he's saying, these guys are not to win championships. Well, he has. He's been in 3-4 straight finals.
In Cleveland.
In Cleveland, and that's the experience right there within itself. So he knows what it takes year in and year out to get to that final spot.
Yeah.
And he's not. Whatever's going on in that locker room is not happening.
I think his exact quote was, "We're trying to play a position right now, trying to get to a great seed. That should be our number one goal. We can't be comfortable being in 5th. I'm not comfortable being in the 5th seed, so now I go back and rework things." It's January.
Yeah.
So how much more work would you be able to do in order to make a difference, really?
Right. Well, I think we're nearing the halfway point of the season. We're getting just about there. I think in a couple weeks we'll be at halfway.
Yeah.
And really at the All-Star break, that's kind of when things shake up. Do I see Boston making a move? That's one thing I was thinking about on my drive over here personally.
You see,
they have the assets to do it with picks. They don't have to really throw in.
Right. But who's gonna give them? Let's just throw out Anthony Davis.
I wasn't saying like
right. But I'm saying
minor tweak move.
Right. Well, who would they get? Who's out there that would be a real star player?
Well, if you look at their roster, they're having a problem with finding that guy to kind of close out those games, in a sense, where they don't know if it's Kyrie or Tatum, and Tatum took that shot the other night, which I didn't feel like was a bad shot.
Yeah.
And Kyrie got on him about it. It just went in and out. It was a miss. It's a make and miss league. But I think if they got another score, they can give them a nice 14, 15. And in any spot. It doesn't have to be guard. It could be, a big. But they have enough assets out there in terms of picks to entice some people.
Yeah.
In terms of player-wise, I don't know who's out there.
Just throw out some. You got some. The Wizards are having a horrible season. You've heard rumors about John Wall and Bradley Beal both potentially being on the trading block.
A Bradley Beal move could shake things up.
Bradley Beal move.
You throw him in there with the Tatum and Kyrie. I don't know.
Well,
on paper, but we don't know.
Right. I don't know who else is out there.
Yeah, that's the thing. But like I said, NBA, their trade in their offseason, it should be interesting to see what they do. We had a mild trade frenzy last year at the deadline. It was some talks with Paul George and things like that, but nothing actually went through. I think this year might be a little different. I don't really see any big names going out, but
not this year.
I think Boston could make some minor tweaks to their team.
Minor tweaks.
There's guys out there on bad teams. There's players on the Cleveland Cavaliers and on teams like that could.
Who's in the cast that could make a difference?
Well, I don't know, but the point is.
I'm with you.
I mean, look, you brought up Kevin Love earlier.
Yeah.
Right? And even though
off air, right? Off air.
That was a conversation we were having off air, but if he comes back healthy, what can he do to the Boston Celtics?
Yeah. Go with Union in Boston.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Welcome back to the Triple Double podcast. Moving on to our next topic, Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks, not Rome. This rookie is something special. He's averaged about 20 points a game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists as a rookie on a Dallas team where they're known for their very high-profile European superstars. So it's a good fit for him. They're currently sitting at 20 wins and 22 losses. So Rome, I'm gonna ask you, what's the most impressive thing you've seen about Luka at this moment?
Most impressive? His ceiling is just so high. I hope, as a basketball fan, he stays healthy for the duration of his career, because this kid is phenomenal.
He's special.
I don't think I've seen a guy. I mean, the way his body is built, you wouldn't expect that skill out of him almost. You see him go down, just walk into the arena, you're kind of like,
He'll be all right.
Right, and then you start watching him play, and he has the step back, or he makes a guy look stupid and puts him in the spin cycle, and you're like, this guy, who is he? He's like almost a unicorn. I don't want to steal Kristaps Porzingis' nickname.
Well, I mean,
this guy really is another unicorn.
If he steals it. I've always been kind of, I guess, subconsciously rooting for the European guys, because it all started with Darko Milicic. It all started with Darko. When Darko came in the league, he was called the next Dirk Nowitzki. He's one of the biggest busts to ever come in the NBA. Ever since then, it's always been these European guys can't play. The EuroLeague is weaker. All they can do is shoot. All they can do is certain things. And for the most part, you look at guys like Michael Bellinelli. He's a great shooter. You look at all these
JJ
Barea,
Jose Calderon,
right?
All these guys that come in and they're really. I see your point you're trying to make. They were really just kind of
a specialist,
one skill set,
a specialist.
And what makes Luka so special is that he has all the skills.
Multiple. He can run the game. He can shoot. He can slam it on somebody. I saw him hit some. Was it a buzzer beater out of the corner?
Yeah.
A week or two ago, it's incredible.
His shot is great. I mean, his form is great. His handles are great. He can hit the rebound. He's up there in height. One thing that came out from NBA scouts going into the draft was that Luka was very skillful, and that's all I kept hearing was Luka's skillful. And
it's a lot of guys who are skillful, right? It's a lot of guys who are skillful.
I was not sold on Luka coming in. I didn't know, because with a lot of European guys, we don't personally get a lot of film on them. We don't watch them like they're watched in their respective country. So when they come here for our drafts, we didn't watch college all year on them. No. We didn't watch them in high school. Some of these guys I watched in high school. So with Luka, I was like, okay, he's skillful, but what is he skillful at? And then the season starts, and the rest is history. This is a kid that didn't even play in the preseason, so.
Well, didn't he win a championship in the EuroLeague?
Yeah, I think multiple.
During the draft, I think. Yeah, I think last year's draft. So he's an established kid. I don't know, man. It's just so much too much to say about this kid. He's like 19 years old, I think.
Yeah, he's
20.
19 or 20.
19 or 20 years old, and he's lighting up the league. I mean, if you're a Mavericks fan, you had some down years, and Dirk Nowitzki's in his twilight, understandably. But this is a very bright future for you guys. I mean, with him, Dennis Smith Jr., you guys signed DeAndre Jordan. I mean, they could potentially sneak into that 8th seed in the Wild Wild West, So time will tell.
Yeah, I was trying to look up Luka Doncic's nickname. I thought he had a pretty cool nickname.
Wonder Boy.
It is Wonder Boy.
Wonder Boy.
He was also El Nino in his league. I just think El Nino's pretty hard, whatever that might mean. Those out there that knows what it means, hit us in the comments.
Hit in the comments, El Nino.
Luka Doncic, man, I'm really happy to watch him play as a basketball fan. And I love guys. I'm not saying he's proving me wrong because I wasn't dissing him coming into the draft. I just wasn't sold for him to be that high. And then, early on in the year, he wasn't the number one pick, but there were talks about him being the number one draft pick. So even then, I was kind of like, who is this guy? Who is this guy?
It's always I feel like a lot of fans have that curse where they look at the European guys and they think, oh, he is going to be as good. As I said, that started with Darko Milicic. Because there are plenty of European guys in the 90s, who lit up. I think a Tony Kukoc on the Bulls, their sixth man, who helped them off the bench win those championships. So it's a lot of fans who kind of have that stereotype of, oh, this European guy, he'll be a specialist at best. He won't be a star. Those Nowitzki guys are one in a generation. I'm telling you right now, Luka is that diamond in the rough.
Yeah,
Luka is that one in a generation. So I'm excited to keep watching him and see what happens.
I am too, and I'm looking at his measurements right now at 6'7", 218. And to be doing what he does on the court is phenomenal. So it makes you think at the guys who had the teams that had the 1 and 2 pick. Maybe I don't know what they may have not have seen in him, but
Atlanta drafted him, and I thought, was it a deal they had with the Mavericks? They took Luka, and then they're gonna take Trae Young.
Right.
But if you're the Hawks, I mean, you might want to go some back door and be like, yeah, you know what? Nah, no thanks, we good.
And, refresh my memory. Who had the number 1 pick last year?
The Suns, DeAndre Ayton.
The Suns, okay. And honestly, at this point, looking at Luka's game, I would have much rather, if I'm Phoenix, take Luka to run with those guys out there.
I think DeAndre Ayton recently had a quote where he got annoyed at how much the media is looking at Luka and not him. And I'll give him credit. Ayton's having a decent season. I think he's like 16 a game, whatever. But you're not Luka Doncic, man.
Yeah.
Now, you may grow into being a superstar on that level. You guys may end up having that same. I mean, hey, it could be a Phoenix-Dallas rivalry in like 5-6 years from now that makes us look stupid.
And they had a rivalry at one point.
A little, yeah.
A bit of a rivalry.
When Nash left, absolutely. But
I think in Ayton's case, I don't even think it's. I wouldn't say it's people. I think it's hard when you're an incoming big to thrive in this league.
Well, and especially if you're one who plays like him back in the basket. Now it's a 3-point game.
Right. So
if he came in back in the 90s, he'd be like the next like Patrick Ewing.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's tough for him. So I mean, I get what he's saying, but it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Welcome back to the Triple Double Podcast. Let's move on to our next topic. Mr. Tom Thibodeau was fired recently this past week from the Timberwolves as his position as head coach and the president, or whatever he was.
Basketball operation.
Yeah. Rome, I'm going to start off with you. We had our first show was based around the Butler mess, and Thibodeau was very much a part of that. My take on this more so was this is the ownership. They've been planning this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They just, for some reason, pulled the trigger mid-season. So what are your thoughts on what's going on in Minnesota right now with the Tibbs and the coaching and that whole mess? It still exists.
It still exists.
No Butler, no
which leads me to believe you might have been right. Jimmy Butler might not have been the problem. It was Tibbs. It was Tibbs. No, in all seriousness, he got fired after a win.
Right.
Which was shocking to me. I actually did not. That was
nice job, Minnie.
If that game was televised, I don't think I watched it that night. But I got the alert that Minnesota beat the Lakers.
So how'd that go? Does he walk in the locker room and they call him in the locker? Hey Tibbs, we're gonna let.
Did he shower yet? I wonder, if he had the suit on still. Was he sweaty after the game? How did this whole thing play out? Is he even allowed to shower in the facility after that? Or does he have to go back home? I'm confused on how that plays out. I really want to know, like, if I could be a fly in that room,
Right.
hearing him get fired after a win.
I mean, that shows the dysfunction of the Timberwolves. I mean, when Jimmy had that practice, right, and he said, "Y'all can't win without me," he didn't just mean on the court. He meant off the court. He meant the locker room. He meant the front office. I'm the type of glue guy you need to hold these. Is called Anthony Towns a more talented player than Jimmy Butler? Yes, he is. Is Wiggins a more talented player? He is. Does Wiggins utilize his talent? No, he does not.
Right. That's good. I like the way you put that.
Right, exactly. I mean, Andrew Wiggins is he should have been the next coming of like Tracy McGrady. Instead, he's the next coming of Ricky Davis. All offense, no defense, but a decent, okay player.
Yeah.
And Cat is a solid player. He's a nice little center, but he hasn't shown the instinct yet to make a deep run in the playoffs, to be a guy you can build your team around.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of with you. Butler was not the issue. I'm not even sure if it was Thibodeau. I think it goes beyond him. It goes deeper than him. This is an organizational issue,
right,
which the owner and whoever else is in charge does not know how to run a basketball team. And it's just sad to see that, because ever since Garnett left you guys moved him in 2007, Minnesota has just been a horrendous place to play.
Favorites will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much on this topic. I don't like seeing people get fired.
No, absolutely not.
If it's for the betterment of their team, which I can't even say that.
Time will tell.
But I don't even think, like you said, in terms of organization, I don't even think they know what they want for this team yet.
They don't.
And right now, they're just a team that's in the middle of the pack. They're going to continue to be in the middle of the pack. They always have been for these past few years, you know. I don't really see them doing anything this season. No playoffs for them. They're going to skate by and they're not going to even get a decent draft pick.
What's sad about the Timberwolves is that they're a medium market, but they're a cold weather team. Okay, they're a team that if you're a free agent, you're not heading there unless like Michael Jordan or something. It's like how people were trying to head to Cleveland. The only reason they came there is LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
Eastern Conference, but you're in the Western Conference. You're in Minneapolis, which I'm not trying to hate on that city, but it's close to Canada. It's cold. It's colder than Michigan.
It should be an Eastern Conference team. I'm kind of confused, but hey, I'm not making that.
So it's a travesty what's going on there. If I was a Timberwolves fan, I would be pretty upset, but
Hey man,
time will tell.
Tibbs, and then last point for me, I don't think Tibbs gets another job after this period.
I think if he gets a job, he's gonna have to swallow his pride and take an assistant coaching job.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay.
Assistant coach.
I don't think
I don't think he's getting another head coach, because he got ran out of Chicago and he got ran out of Minnesota. So if you're a GM, if it happens to you one time, okay, it's a fluke, right? On two different occasions, the owner of the team and the president or the second in command is calling you a cancer. Like, what's that gonna make the other owners think about you?
And it's really just a testament to his coaching style. How me and you were talking before the segment.
Right.
The league is not driven that way anymore. It's not yell at your players, get this job done.
Right.
Do this. A lot of these guys.
The days of Bobby Knight are behind us.
I'm not trying to call these guys soft, but some of these guys are sensitive. We have to be more mindful of their feelings and thoughts and all that. And I had the chance to interview Dwayne Casey at his introduction press conference, and one of the questions I asked was, what can he bring to the Pistons? And he gave a surprising answer. He said, I'm not going to bring that whip and ball and chain. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be hammering over my guys like that anymore. He's like, those days are over.
Yeah.
And Dwayne Casey is an older coach.
Right.
And so he's adjusting to that. So Tom Thibodeau just hasn't adjusted. And you can't use the same coaching style anymore. And for the coaches that have not adjusted, they're well respected. You know, in terms of a Pop or guys like that in the league still that may be that way.
Or Rick Carlisle even, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And major shouts out while we're on the topic of coaches. Flip Saunders' son, who got his first win.
Yes. Yes.
One of the youngest head coaches to get a debut win.
Yeah.
So, I like that. I was a Flip Saunders fan.
Big props.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Triple Double Podcast. Moving on to our final segment of the day. Going on to Blake Griffin, home repping guy of the Pistons. He defeated his old team, the Clippers, in a win on Saturday evening, 109-104. Jerome, I'm gonna go off. I'm gonna just say this. I loved it. I love Blake beat his old team. Had a 44-point game. And one of my favorite moments was in the pregame with Steve Ballmer, a fellow DCD alum. So I'm not trying to hate on you, Mr. Ballmer, because I understand when you went to high school, I was there too. But at the same time, it's like I understand it. So I'm gonna let you say your spiel, and I'll get my little spiel.
Yeah, for me, I didn't even watch the game last night, but I immediately heard the rumbles that came after that game thing. I mean, it was all over Twitter and social media. I don't blame Blake one bit, and I'm all for storylines. I'm all for when these teams go back to play a team and some of the storylines within that game. So, last night it was Blake going back against his old team, or when Toronto and Spurs played. I like those games within a game.
Well, I mean, you have those every single week. You had the LeBron back in Cleveland deal.
Yeah.
You had the Durant and OKC deal.
And I live for those games.
I love those games.
Live for those.
I love those games.
And what makes it special is that these players, you can really see that they live for it too, because they take that just as personal.
Yeah.
I mean, they take these matchups just as personal. So for Blake to do what he did last night, the baller, terrific. Pistons got another dub. In terms of the owner situation.
Well, let me say this really quickly, and I'll be done on this topic. I think it was the year before, or the summer before Blake was traded. Chris Paul had asked for a trade. He basically pretty much said, all I want to go to is the Rockets. That's the only team I will re-sign with. So they were limited. So they moved CP3. I'm getting the sense that they really wanted to keep CP3 and trade Blake. And it happened the opposite. So then they gave this presentation to Griffin about how he's the future of the franchise. It's his team now. CP3's gone. No more drama. It's you and DeAndre. All this crap. And they move him that same season. So if you're Blake Griffin and you heard all that garbage and they move you anyway, I understand why you're upset at Steve Ballmer, at the Clippers in general. And with 44 points, that's a message. That's a message saying, I love it here in Detroit, but I shouldn't be here.
Right, this is what you guys should have kept.
This is
To play devil's advocate, is it right to say that Blake maybe took it too personal?
Well, I mean...
Because, I mean, at the end of the day, I can't speak on it because I'm not in the NBA, but I think in some sense, on the outside looking in, you have to be prepared for certain moves. And in Blake's case, I don't know if he was getting anything alluded to him that he was going to be there for a while.
Well,
outside of that presentation, I'm just saying, but it's just, I mean, Kyrie did a presentation with the Celtics and said he wants to be there forever. It's not going to happen though. So like these things can happen, and people can talk in front of the cameras and flashes and all that looks nice, but at the end of the day, it's a business.
All I remember hearing is that they had some grandiose presentation for him, and they basically said, here are the keys, take us to the promised land. I understand being mad. It wasn't that long ago. I think it was under a year ago he was traded. So I think this is the first matchup he's had in Staples Center. So understandably,
first time back, yeah.
Understandably, yeah. This is his first chance to be like, F you guys.
And I think it was a trade, so it's business more than anything. It would be different if free agency contracts were up, negotiations didn't work out, they fell through, boom, he left. They traded him for assets. You know what I'm
They
saying?
have worked out. Tobias
They traded him
Harris
for assets.
and Avery Bradley and Boban are
Boban's
key members
baller.
of that team.
Yeah,
You
so, I think about it in that sense. And I think about it in the Pistons sense, where I wasn't really sold on Blake coming here at first, but I'm loving the way he's panning out, and I'm loving him on our
He's a
team.
leader.
Exactly.
He's a leader. He's a leader.
I think in a sense where we got lucky with whatever went on between those two groups.
And they got lucky too.
Yeah.
But it's however you feel about it. I mean, as we said in our last segment, some guys are different than others. There are some players who might get traded and not care.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some guys who get traded and, come back and ignore the owner. So, I mean, it depends who you are. It depends how it went down, much like you said. But
I think it might have been a little extra motivation there. I think, Blake might have been doing that to get himself hyped up for the game. I think Blake knew exactly what he was doing. And from the camera angles I saw, Steve was there for most of that warm-up, sitting right there. So Blake knew he was there. It wasn't like how Blake said, I didn't see him. Like, come on, man, you kind of saw him.
Well,
he
looked over for a split second. It was like,
and then, so I mean, I don't know. It was funny how it happened.
It was awkward, but at the same time, I understand it. So, thank you for watching another episode of the Triple Double Podcast. My name is Ashanti Lee Sebron.
I'm Romero Hardy.
And once again, feel free to subscribe. Follow us for any updates on the show. Once again, thank you for watching. Have an amazing morning, afternoon, or evening. Thank you.